Welcome to the Spiritual Roundtable, where we're about to break down, discuss, unpack, and challenge pretty much anything spiritual. Together, we're going to embark on a journey of unlocking spiritual potential through a ton of things like healing, balance, oneness, devil's advocate, and so much more. We always promise to give you what you need and only sometimes what you want. I'm your host, Erika M, child of balance, and here with me, my co-host, is Miss Erin M, Keys of Wisdom 369. Join us today as we unmask the healing journey. We're going to talk raw, unfiltered, unedited, everything and anything healing. The shit they don't tell you, and the stuff they wrap in a pretty bow. Come join us.
So today I wanted to touch on something that keeps coming up in the collective. And it's kind of like people keep trying to box their healing into some kind of a label, whether that be, that whole love and light concept, or that it's supposed to fit other people's criteria for what healing looks like. So today I kind of want to unpack from our perspectives and our experience what the healing journey actually looks like. Because sometimes like I said, I think there's just this illusion of what it's supposed to be, and then people get stuck in this space of beating themselves up because they think that they're doing it wrong. And they don't realize that when you start off on this path, like your initial jolt into healing, it usually starts with confusion. It's like nothing makes sense. You've taken this big, I want to call it like almost like a perspective shift in some kind of area or paradigm in your life. And then you almost feel like, while nothing makes sense, you're struggling to relate to people, and you don't even actually realize that you've just kind of gotten catapulted into your spiritual journey. And like I said, it's so much more than just, the unconditional love and the oh, we got to show everybody grace, because there's so much that comes with finding yourself and all the things that you have to face in that journey, that I just want people to understand that, like, what you do for you doesn't have to look like anybody else. And when you find that you're stuck in your spiritual journey, sometimes it's opening your mouth and trying to actually connect with others or seek that guidance, because you get stuck in that rat race of the mind where you're confused because you've moved into something new. But that, what's the word I'm looking for? That, I won't call it the fuck shit voice because that's not it, but the that inner critic in you is still very much there. And so then you get in this place thinking that you're doing it wrong. And so that's what I mean today, that's really what I want to debunk, that there's no wrong way for you to choose to heal. And what does healing actually freaking look like? And, that keeps coming up for us in lives. I mean, I don't know about you, but in private spaces, it keeps coming up. People keep sitting there and they're literally getting stuck. And, I always call it standing at the crossroads, or, whatever you want to say it, but it's getting caught in the sense of your energy where you're not taking action anymore. And so today it's like, I want to dispel that illusion for people of, you're not healing wrong. You just have to stop comparing yourself to everybody else. If you think that both of us haven't sat in places where we have been utterly confused, didn't know which way was up, which way was right, which way was left, overthought everything because you're looking at us from where we are now. You always say it beautifully. Everybody wants to be where you're at now without realizing where you came from. They want they want to jump to that healed space without realizing what it looks like to actually get there. And so I thought maybe us giving more of a raw look of what that looks like from our perspective would be a great place to start with people.
It's messy. It's messy as fuck. It's tiring. It's exhausting. It's aggravating. It's frustrating. It's extremely happy. It's extremely joyful when things do click. There's a lot of, oh my God, I can't believe this actually bothers me moments. Because a lot of times we convince ourselves of what our healing is to look like. And we don't realize that healing is the end result. And I think that's important. And I just talked about this with meditation as well. A lot of times people want to put like the cart before the horse, but it's really, you want to start on step 10 without honoring and going through steps 1 through 9. And it's literally like the same thing with grace, and we find it in the overly positive, toxic side of spirituality or life in general, right? Like you said, show somebody grace, show them this. You can only show someone grace because you are quite capable of the opposite, 1, and 2, you've done it for yourself. But you can only muster up the energy, the courage, the ability within you, the space to show grace once you've traveled through every other space that ain't grace. And you have to come to that term, like within yourself. Like, you have to come to realization that you don't want to show somebody grace, you want to choke them out. Until you realize that choking them out isn't what gets you what you need.
We're not
But
choosing
that still needs to be, that still needs to be expressed. That still needs to be, come to terms with. But the problem is that we want to do that, oh, all love and light, even the no judgment. We say no judgment all the time, but we're saying no judgment in the humbling aspect of, I can't judge you because I see myself in you. I can't judge you because I've been where you've been. I can't judge you because I know what you're going through. I can level with you. I've been wanting to burn it down. I've been wanting to stab somebody. I've been wanting to hurt somebody's feelings. I've been wanting to speak my piece. I've also wanted to be left alone. I've also wanted to be unseen. I wanted to be ignored. I wanted somebody to give a shit. I've also been all of those things. So it's just one of those kind of leveling with yourself. And it's like, when it comes from no judgment, it's not no judgment because everything's rosy and I'm going to love you for all the bad shit you do. No, that's not necessarily it. It's, I love you because I understand that who you are right now does not determine who you're going to be, nor does it determine where you came from, and vice versa. And you can flip that around and spin that in many ways as you want to. Where you come from does not determine who you are or where you're going. And it's all of those put into one. But when you get to a certain level, it's like, oh, I see you. But it's like, I see you, not I see the bullshit you're in, not I see the toxicity you sit, not I see the energy you're flowing through right now. No, I see you. I see your soul.
Yes.
I see who you are at your core. I see it. And because I honor that in myself, I can honor it in you and realize that this is a piece of you. It is not all of you. And that's where no judgment comes from. That's a higher mind perspective. That's a higher self perspective rather than I'm just going to pretend it doesn't bother me because no judgment. That's bullshit. Stop suppressing yourself. If you are suppressing yourself, you're not feeling anything. You're and that's where people go, well, I'm just trying to be really positive. Stop trying to be
something.
And maybe just be you. Trying is the act of doing. You are actively doing what you think, your perspective, your assumption of what you actually is. That is wild. You are actively acting and working and doing a physical movement on your assumption of what you should or maybe could be. That's wild. Maybe just be you. And if you falls down the steps, then just be that person. If you stubs a toe, be that person. If you get into road rage while driving once, be that person. But the things happen less when you express them because they all stem from someplace.
But
They all stem from something different.
I was going to say, I love how you just said, when people are like, well, I'm just trying to be positive. Take that back to energy. If you're trying to be something that you're actively not, right? And the universe gives you what you are, not what you want. You're actively trying to be positive while you're sitting in a space of inner conflict and turmoil. And then you wonder why that's what you're literally attracting in your life. Because you're literally trying to be something that you're not. And I love how I want to go backwards again because you said so much great shit, friend. Seriously, not shit.
I've had different space lately, so.
No, but I mean, seriously, you can't understand something or understand something, whatever, without knowing its opposite. Without knowing its opposite. And I love how all those examples you gave about judgment. And, that you're coming from that perspective of, I see I see me in you, or I see parts of me that were once there. I show you grace or no judgment because I've been there. And you can't judge somebody. Well, you can. Let's take that back. You actively can, but like that makes you a hypocrite. So like that's a whole nother story. But that's so much of the healing journey where I think there's this inner conflict in people where, they label things, and we've done labels and limits, but where they label some of this inner conflict, like the anger, the rage, the when you feel like you got loss or grief for things, or even like the disgust phase that goes through healing. And somehow, because of those, as you're deconstructing and unlearning things, you've got to let go of that good, bad, right, wrong, this way, that way construct, because it's realizing that those experiences are leading you to something bigger. But if you're busy, you know, with your sword out, you're just swinging it at yourself because you're ashamed of your anger. You're ashamed of who that person is. You're afraid to feel your feelings, which then gets you kind of stuck in between that. You're just stuck in the inner conflict. You're not into that, like, metamorphosis, transformation, this and that. You're just swirling in energy. But so much of understanding that you got to deconstruct that inner conflict, because the inner conflict, that's your shadow work. That's learning to like give those things the space they need to be felt through. And you always say, creating space. People don't understand what it really means to create space. You got to be willing to let go of things to create space. That's where your conflict comes from, because you're fighting yourself. And the more you fight yourself, the more you then unintentionally or subconsciously project your inner conflict into your outer reality. And now everything is conflict.
Well, and what people don't want to realize is that the conflict, that inner fight, is because we identify with it. And that's what a lot of people need to realize, is that your inner fight is because you identify with your mask. You like it for one reason or another. It helps you feel something, and it also distracts you from feeling other things. So when people are like, well, I just can't let go of this, it's because you identify with it, like mentally, like who you are. It is part of you. It has now become part of your character. Like, and it's not like there's a different type of release. When we say release, especially myself, I'm talking energetic release.
Yeah.
I'm not saying eat it out the window and pretend it never existed.
No.
That's toxic as shit. Like, that's a part of you.
It's avoidance.
But when you release it, you're releasing the control that experience, that part of you has over the whole. It can now just become a piece out of the 1,000. It doesn't need to be the leader of the 1,000. And that's like, I don't know why I'm saying 1,000, not like 144,000. Like, I'm saying 1,000 in like, I was picturing 1,000-piece puzzle.
Yes.
So I just wanted to like
Yes.
put that out there
That's
for
how I
everybody
get
who's
that.
like, what does 1,000 mean? Because I feel like someone's gonna be like, 1,000, is that a frequency? Because I always talk energy.
Yeah.
No, I was picturing 1,000-piece puzzle.
Yes.
Like, and that's kind of the notion behind it.
No, but like again, I love how you always, you bring up that mask, because people, you got to go backwards to go forwards. The only way out is through. And when you realize that your mask comes from your childhood, and that you start seeking out things that you didn't receive as a child, and that becomes your identity and your mask, and it affects your relationships and the things that you look for, or that you crave, or that you this or you that, once you embark in your, I'm just going to say, once you get flung into the shit show, because that's what it is. That's what it is. You get flung into this. You get flung into it. People can pretend like they woke up one day and was like, I'm just going to do this. No, you didn't. Something went off in your head, and I've said this to you before too. Everybody's got their construct, their belief system, or their paradigm that one day they woke up and they were like, the math ain't math in here. The math ain't math in here, and I don't know why. And then that triggers your rabbit hole. That's how I'm gonna explain to you. It triggers your rabbit hole, whatever that is. But that's where you start seeking a deeper meaning and understanding of something. Normally, again, what did I say? It starts outside of yourself because a construct or belief system outside of you no longer resonated for you. And you don't even realize that's what it is. Then you're on your, you know what I mean? Then you're on your rabbit holes. Then you're on your this. So you're literally seeking answers and meanings because you're shifting perspectives. And then you have those aha moments, or where some people say, I started to connect the dots, or this and that. Some people don't even realize that they're actively on a spiritual path, an enlightened path, whatever label you want to give it in the construct, in simple ways like that. But then the healing part, because that's what we're focusing on, the healing part, that's where it gets, like you said, it's messy. It's messy.
Well, but it's like people want to be on their healing journey for notoriety.
Yes.
And that's where you're doing it wrong.
'Cause
Stop
that's
with the
easy
mile
to-
markers. Stop with the mile markers. You are killing yourself with the
Yep.
mile markers. I can't tell you how many people come and they want to wear their dark night of the soul as a badge of honor. You are killing yourself. Stop.
Don't do
You
that.
are hindering your journey. Stop. And they're like, well, I can't have shadow work because I already did my dark night of the soul. Newsflash, honey bunch, you will do a lot of it. You will do a lot of those
One
on
friend.
repeat. And that's where the labeling, that's where like the labeling can hinder you because they think that, oh, I I do this, I learn about sacred geometry, I have an experience with an angel, I meet my guides, I go through a little bit of healing, I cried, I did, I had that one cry. Oh, and then now I'm doing the dark night of the soul. And I passed that. Oh my God. I realized I met my karmic. And now, no, the healing doesn't work like that. It's
No.
not fucking linear. There are no mile markers that you're going to hit. It's bullshit. And I'm sorry it's bullshit because you're not a linear being.
No.
I literally need you to hear that. You're not a linear being. Your energy is not linear.
Nope.
Your energy does not function that way. If you want to get crazy, it's a spiral. We won't even go down that road. But it's like, okay, like, so just that fact alone, you're trying to force yourself into a box, whether that be expectations, something you've learned, discovered, like he said, a rabbit hole, a trap, because it's a spiritual
Yeah.
trap within itself, or
Facts.
something else. And it's just like, that's not the case. Your healing is for you and nobody else. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't tell anybody I was having my dark night of the soul when I had mine. I just quietly had it to myself. And everybody got to watch me have it. But they didn't realize that's what they were watching. I just quietly dealt with it myself because it was for me. It was my healing journey. I didn't need to come on in here and be like, oh my God. Like, and I had it kind of before I was doing this, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things to be like, there's a lot that happens in stages. So you may have your initial like aha tower moment, your shakeup, your catalyst for your first initial healing. But it happens in layers. Think of yourself as a giant onion. You stink, you smell. No, I'm just kidding. But like there's gonna be there's gonna be layers to your bullshit. And that's what it is. The layers to your bullshit. And your bullshit isn't always the bad things about you.
No.
But it's just your life experiences that you've cocooned up in, right? And you're just pulling them back. So you might get past the initial one around the onion and you're like, I did my first one. High five. Like, it just doesn't work that way because that's not the only one. You now have, welcome to your 1,000 layers of self. You now have all these different layers. And then guess what? As you're growing and as you're expanding and as you're evolving, as you're reaching higher levels, as you continue to move on and you become the new you every time you blink, congratulations. You now also potentially just created another layer of self because you're forever growing, forever evolving. And the more you choose to dive into you, the more opens up to you outside of you. And this is that rabbit hole that we say, like, you're never done healing. It's because as you're still breathing, this vessel, this whatever, you have a chance to puncture a lung and need to heal yourself. Like, there's a part of it that is so authentic in the fact of like, you don't need to fit the I'm going to do this and then I'm going to be my karmic and then I'm going to go over here and then I'm going to learn this and then I'm going to deal with my inner child and then my inner teen and then no, fuck all that. Fuck it all. Because it's just not how it works. It's not how it works. That's a great, like, those are great things to be like. Most of the time people realize later on that they did those things.
Yeah.
Unless they're working in like a construct, or they're working with us, and maybe we might use those keywords to
Yeah.
help you understand, so that when you hear somebody else say it, you're like, oh, inner child, that makes sense. It's for context clues though.
Yeah.
It's not for like milestones. We're not
No.
like, we're gonna be the child, and then the teen, then the adult, and then the
No.
adolescent, and then the no. You can, but like no. It's because they're all connected together, because they're all you. So
Correct.
something that elicits a response in your inner child may also piss off your teen, which may also trigger you and jump you forward to last week, which may send you backward to when your uncle died, which may send you forward to when grandma punched you in the face, may send you backward. Like it's a forever back and forth flowing movement. And it never stops. To get to your peace, you have to travel through everything that's not peaceful. Healing is not peaceful.
Oh,
When you are oming your life away on a sofa, om yaming, like no, that's a form and an exercise that is very beneficial for you. And that is great for your energy, your vessel, your nervous system, all fantastic, beautiful things. But if that is the only healing journey you've done, then you haven't done your healing journey. You have a toolbox where the entire world, and even some of the stuff off the planet, depending on how awesome you are, right? Like how in touch you are is at your disposal. One tool is not the entirety of your healing journey. So where that may open up doors for you, meditation, sound, frequency, throat chakra work, breath work, that's the tip of the iceberg of your healing journey. And that's why it never ends. That's just one piece that does not encompass the whole thing. Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website, www.childofbalance.com. We opened up a Get 5, Give 5 program, and it's all for referring friends and family. We know you guys do it. We want to say thank you, because we are always seeing you send your trusted people our way. So visit the website and figure out how you can not only get $5 for doing it, but give $5 to your bestie. Visit www.childofbalance.com. There's no end date. We're just launching it now to say thank you. So if you want a one-stop shop for private spaces, spiritual guidance and assistance, mediumship, mentorship, private readings, shadow work assistance, it's all there. If you are looking for a free tree of knowledge where you can learn esoteric wisdoms, breath work, you can learn about yourself, cultures, spiritual hygiene, spiritual practices, spiritual traditions, and you can just learn about almost anything under the sun spiritual for 100% free, check out the website. And you should become a member. If you're not already a member, www.childofbalance.com. It's 100% free. It'll never cost you money. We would never charge you money. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com.
I always love the onion reference. Like, it's my favorite. Seriously, the onion
It's
reference.
because my best friend in my
Oh, I
life
know.
called me an onion at the worst time ever. And I was like, I'm not an onion. And then it triggered me in a little bit. And I was like, but I try really hard not to be onion-like. And then he made me laugh with the Shrek reference. But like, it just fits. We have many layers because there's many
But
forms
that's
of you.
what makes it so perfect. Like, as a metaphor, as a whatever, right? But that's the thing. Like, when you were touching on like the dark night of the soul, friends, I will tell you now, you will have worse dark nights of the soul the more layers that you peel back. They will, in the sense of intensity and this and that, because like you were just saying, look at each layer as an illusion. Look at each layer as an illusion or your mask, right? Because what do we always say? You always say this. We even talked about it last time about your nest. Your nest is on the inside of your onion. So every layer on top of it has been placed there, and you have to peel each one back to get back to what's already been there. It's just buried, it's just covered. You're uncovering it. So with each peel back of a layer comes a new level of healing. So when you hear people say, new levels, new devils, or, new level, new lessons, that's what they mean. And that's the thing. It's like you're going to have a breakthrough here, and then you're going to revisit it at some point in time because now you haven't. Most people like to intellectualize their healing. Let's start with that. They like to intellectualize their healing journey, and then they wonder why they're doing it a few times before they, and I'm doing this in air quotes, get it right. And I don't mean get it right, but I mean before the cycle actually ends, before they actually accept the lesson that's in front of them. They gain an awareness and then they try to intellectualize themselves through it, rationalize, find the logic, give their feelings or emotions labels and say, well, I did this because of this, and I'll take my ownership here, all while avoiding the one thing that really jolts you forward, which is what you've denied yourself for so long. And that's your emotions, your energy in motion, your ability to give yourself and hold space for yourself to feel what you need to. Just like, I love when you're like, well, I cried that one time, or that one time I hit something with a baseball bat, or you're going to continue to rip open more and more things. And when you have the courage to not put the band aid back on, you're going to feel it in a totally different way. Because most people come in to their healing guarded as fuck. Guarded as fuck. And so you're doing it like as a test run the first time until you realize that you just quite haven't achieved what you set out to do. Because again, like you said, you put yourself in a box of the markers and the things you're supposed to hit. Well, I journaled my shadow work today, and we meditated, and I sat outside and gazed at the sun. And although those are great things, those are all things that people start doing because they're tangible things while avoiding the actual parts of healing that get you to where you want to go.
Well, and it's just like it's just so misunderstood. Like everyone wants to know what their healing is gonna look like. Your healing looks like you.
Yes.
It looks like you. How put together are you? The answer is probably not much, and that's okay. Like, so it's gonna be messy. It's gonna be like not in a structured setting.
No.
Are you gonna be like, even if you go to journal, like I get this so many times. Well, in that stupid shadow work journal, and I say stupid because so many people were confused by it. Every person that comes up in our sessions are like, well, I bought a shadow work journal, but like I just got confused while doing it and it didn't really make sense. And it didn't elicit what I was hoping it would, right? So first, expectation. But then second, it's like, because you're thinking that by doing this fixes your problem. One, you're just looking for a solution. You don't want to honor the problem, in air quotes, right? You don't want to honor what's going on. You just want the solution to get past it. So we're not actually giving it space. We're pushing it aside, one. And then on top of it, that's not how it works. You can sit down for 30 minutes and journal, and you could get no elicited responses from journal. And then you could go outside, live the next 4 hours of your day, and then all of a sudden you watched a squirrel fall out of a tree, and it's perfectly fine. And you're like, why is that? Oh my God. And then now all of a sudden you're in a crying fit and you're like, but this doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden it's like, the one time I fell off my bicycle and dad didn't catch me and he said he was going to hold the bike, but he didn't. And then he was on his phone and he missed it. Like, and all of a sudden it's like this huge, big rush of emotions. It's because it's like pouring, like, what is it, like vinegar and baking soda or whatever? It's like pouring the Mentos in the Coke or whatever. It's like, you don't get to determine how long that bitch fizzes before it pops.
Yes.
It's just allowing it to pop. Like, and then waiting for it to calm down before you clean up the mess. And that's the thing, is that people want to cap it.
Yes.
People want to be like, oh, and 30 minutes of crying.
And then close it really quick.
Yeah, they shake up the can of Coke.
Yep.
Yeah, they shake up the can of Coke, the can of soda. They open the top. They get smacked in the. It's like that lady. I don't know if you remember that grandma who did like the soda challenge. Like she opened it and like smacked her in the face.
Picture that when you picture your healing. You're
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna do this. And then all of a sudden it's like, finally some pressure release. And then all of a sudden you're like, holy fuck. And then you're like trying to twist the cap back on. And you're like, that was a lot. We should put this bottle down. Don't do that. Don't do that.
No.
Because here's the thing. You're trying to grow, and I'm drawing a box, whether you can see me or not. You're trying to grow in your comfortability box.
Yep.
Growth doesn't happen in your comfortability box. It happens when you take one step outside your box. And I'm not saying you need to run around outside your box, doing a whole streak around the neighborhood. No, you just have to take one toe, 1 foot, 1 step outside the box. And if you just keep taking one more step after one more step after one more step, no matter how little or silly or stupid it may appear, because this is really important when it comes to healing. People confuse their ego with intuition. And it's hard until you learn your discernment to know what's what. But when it comes to healing, if your brain is downplaying something that you are doing for healing, know you are reaching the edge of your comfortability zone.
Yep.
When your brain clicks off and tells you you don't have time for this, starts unprioritizing what you're doing to heal and to get to your vulnerable parts, you're doing it correctly. And I'm getting cold chills. Keep going. Your brain has a defense mechanism that will safeguard the vessel. And in order to safeguard the vessel, it'll tell you that shit's not fucking important because it's painful and damaging to the mind. But you are not the mind. You are the energy behind everything else. You are the awareness within the vessel. You are the spirit in the vessel. You are greater than your mind. So part of it is like this little bit of energetic discipline and interpersonal discipline of being like, I want this. So then go after what you want. Stop self-sabotaging. And when it gets hard, going, well, I just didn't have time to do that today. Well, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but I just, something doesn't feel right. Of course it doesn't feel right. Of course not. Of course it's telling you to run the other direction because you're breaking a cycle. You're breaking its safety zone. You're stepping outside the box.
You're removing.
If I gave you a red line and I was like, don't ever step over this line, and I made you live inside the line for 40 years, and then there was somebody in the box with you, and it was like, maybe we should just run over that line. And you're like, no, we can't do that, right? You trained yourself to never step over that line.
Yes.
And you've done that throughout your whole life, to never go outside that box, to never venture to those dark places, right? Your shadow, in quotes, to never elicit a response that you didn't enjoy. That's where you're doing your life wrong. Because like Keith said in the beginning, it's not love and light. It's not, I need to enjoy every moment of every day. It's not being swept too far off of neutral, ground zero from anything. The really high highs and the really low lows. It's not experiencing those things that are detrimental to us. It's when we stay in any one thing for too long that it becomes detrimental to us. I can have a moment or a blip or a feeling of loneliness. Whoop, that doesn't bother anybody, and that happens naturally. Once you come back up to neutral, you're fine. It was a moment. It doesn't define me. When I choose to anchor into that low vibrational moment, that's when it starts to define my energy. It starts to define how I function energetically, thus rippling into how I function as a vessel, as a person. And you'll notice that your thoughts will wander. They'll start saying maybe mean or rude things, or you'll start playing your woe is me story of why I'm so lonely, why nobody likes me, why this, that, this. And you get trapped in something that you're not. You're neutral. You were born neutral. You're high vibrational, but you are neutral. You're here to experience all things, not just experience what you want. But you can't experience all things outside of you until you're willing to experience all things inside of you. And that includes your shadows, your traumas, your dramas. Healing's not pretty. It's not. Healing's what you go through so that you can be, quote unquote, air quotes, pretty on the outside. It's so that you can be peaceful later, right? While we're healing, we're shitty people. I don't care what anybody says. We're shitty people.
Yep.
We are reactive. We are defensive. We are rude. We can be harmful. We can be stupid sounding or, oblivious to things that are right in front of us. Ignorant. We can be a lot of different things. while we're healing. We can be
Yeah.
overly emotional. We can be, we can feel numb. It's all the process of getting back to neutral.
Yes.
And some areas we're climbing up, and some areas we're coming back down to the ground. And that happens in multiple different areas of the energy while you heal. So while my depression may need to come up, my astronaut who thinks, maybe a little bit too much in the etherical realm needs to come back down and ground. And it's a lot of different things. If I'm really head heavy, all that air energy needs to come down, right? My inability to want to do anything, my motivation needs to come up. It is all those different things, and they all need to reach neutral. Neutral is not the place you go to die. I feel like people need to know that. Neutral is the place where you get to ride the waves. I'm not being buried, and I didn't just get taken out by the wave and I hit the reef underneath, and I didn't get launched up into the cliff mountain. No, I'm getting to ride the wave and enjoy the ride. So I'm getting to experience the water, and I'm getting to experience the flight. I'm getting to experience all of those things. But that's your safety zone. Your safety zone is neutral, and healing is just helping you find your personal neutral, your personal, organic, authentic neutral.
I love how you gave the example of the safety switch or the safety mechanism. When, your brain kicks in and tells you, well, you don't need to do this today, or we don't have time for that. It's the same thing that, when I say, you're given opportunities when you're healing. Well, I guess you're given opportunities whenever. It doesn't even just have to be when you're healing. But anyways, where you get to show the universe that you are who you say you are. So often on that path, right? People overcome something once. You have to do it more than once. Once is great and it's a massive accomplishment. But like you said, healing's not linear, it's a spiral. So when you think of it as a staircase, you're going up. You've done it once, but here it comes again, because you have a new perspective. You've done it a little bit differently now. So we just gonna make sure you put your money where your mouth is, and we're gonna give you the opportunity to do it again. But then people get stuck in that trap sometimes, right? Oh my God, my lesson's coming back around again. Oh my this. And then they get discouraged again. But again, a lot of this is everything is opportunity. Everything is experience. There's no wrong. There's no right. There is no wrong. That's our humanness. That's the need to put things in their compartments and in their places. It's realizing that, like you just said, it's getting to neutral. Everybody wants to get to their peace. Find your neutral. Find your neutral. That's your flow. That's not fighting the flow. The flow goes like this. It's not this all the time, but you're there for it. What?
For those of you who can't see, the flow was an up and down wave.
I'm doing
For
my
those
hand,
of you
sorry.
who are just listening to the audio, this was a straight line.
Yeah, this was a straight line, linear. And then when I said it's, when you're in neutral, it's flow, I'm making a wave with my hand. But that's the thing. It's nobody says when you're in neutral that there's not still things going on around you. But it's a learning to realize, one, like we always say, you're not your thoughts. Your thoughts are byproduct. You're also not your emotions. Those are energy and motion. So when you sit in neutral or seat of the observer or, other terms you can, slide in there, whatever works for you, you're saying, I'm sitting in a perspective where I'm not attaching emotion and I'm just letting it come in, and I'm not adopting the thought. I'm not holding on to the thought. I'm just letting it come in and come out. It's the same thing when people are like, oh, I found my peace in the chaos. Well, bet your ass you did. Because like Child of Balance says, chaos is unstructured energy. That's all. It's unstructured energy.
Once you give it structure, it is no longer chaos.
Facts.
And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people want to maybe have an idea of what healing looks like, right? And we say this all the time, but healing is you. It is your process.
Yep.
It is giving yourself what you have been denying yourself. That is different for everybody. What Tammy Sue Lou may have been giving to herself versus not, and Jonathan may have been denying himself something completely different. So Tammy may have been, infatuating herself with knowledge and understanding, but denying herself love. John might have been seeking out love in all the different ways and not rationalizing and fully understanding anything. So those two healings are going to be completely different. So I think everyone has the misconception of like, oh, I'm healing, so I just got to cry for a second, right? No. Like, you might cry. Yeah, that might be an elicited response from some of the shit you uncover. But your healing is not like, go in the corner, cry, and then suck it up, you big ass baby. Like, no, that's not it. Like, it's about giving yourself what you've been denying.
Yes.
And that's different for everybody. And if you don't know what that is, well, that's usually when people reach out for some help, or they look to outside tools or people for guidance, right? Because they don't know where to start. But once you get that ball rolling, it's just having the courage to follow the ball. Like, if you think of it like a ball of yarn, right? Like, they give you the one end, and then someone yeets that yarn, and you're like, well, where does this lead? You're going to have to follow the string to figure it out.
Yeah.
You're going to have to follow where you're led, but everyone wants to control the string. Everyone wants to go, well, I went here, so now we're going to go over here, but maybe that didn't bring you there. Maybe your car accident from 4 years ago didn't bring you back to where you thought it was going to. Your hatred for the other driver. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it brought it back to a fender bender that your parents got in and you were in the back seat when you were 4. Maybe it got into now a fear of why you don't walk by the side of the street, or why you can't ride a bike. Like, it could bring you anywhere. Or that one time that, Tommy said he was going to show up for you when you guys were, in 9th grade, and then he didn't show up for you. The same way that when you told somebody you got in a car accident, nobody came to help you and nobody was at the hospital. Like, all of these things, I'm getting super goosebumps. None of these are my examples, but I'm getting goosebumps. Like they're not my personal experience, but like, it's those types of things that sometimes, like, if you're just willing to have the courage to follow where it leads you, if you can just pick a point, you'll go through your entire healing journey the way it's, when I say supposed to, divinely guided to be unfolded. It's when people try to skip the steps, they try to rush it, they try to do things in a certain order, or, well, somebody mentioned that I have this, so I must now dive into this. And it's like, you can. Like, that's great. But is that actually what you need? And only you know that answer. Like, you say it all the time. Is this what you can live with?
Yep.
Like, and a lot of times you can use that saying in healing as well. Like, when people are like, well, I just don't understand. And it comes a lot of times when people are like, well, do I hang around certain people or do I not? Because your healing comes with growth. And every time you heal something, you figure it out, you come to terms with it, you accept it, you adopt it back into self, or you choose to release it. Like, right? Most of the time you end up doing both, but like at different levels, different stages. So it's like, great. But then they're like, but what do I do? Do I stay over here? Do I go down to this? And I don't know what to do. And you get lost in it. It's just a really like easy place to just follow where you're being led. If you feel like you're being called to, step away from somebody for a second, and that's what you can live with, then do it. If you feel like you cannot live without talking to somebody, then don't do it, because it's what you can live with. This is your life. It's your soul. It's your energy. It's your vessel. It's your healing journey and nobody else's.
It's your experience.
Now, a word from our sponsors. If you are looking for a one-stop shop for all things spiritual, check out the website, www.childofbalance.com. For those of you who truly appreciate handmade products, we have a handmade shop. Everything is made to order, blessed, saged, and sent out as quick as possible. We have anything from handmade sounds for meditation to chakra chain macrames to tree of life macrames with inlaid crystals to herbal blends like bath teas and dump and go specials to road opener mixes to kits and oils and so much more. For those of you who enjoy taking spiritual classes and courses but maybe can't fit it into your busy schedule, we have self-study courses, and everything can be found in the handmade shop. The website is about assistance and community. Take advantage of it, fam. It's a great place to go to unlock your spiritual potential. www.childofbalance.com.
I just think that sometimes we forget that when we're healing, and this goes back to the whole love and light thing, is that it's not all rosy.
No.
And it's not all sad either.
No.
I can't tell you how many people we deal with in the back end on private sessions and private clients who are in mentorship or shadow work or, get a read and they're just dealing with something. Like, a lot of times it's not only self-judgment, but it's feeling like you shouldn't do something. I shouldn't be angry. I know I shouldn't be upset. I know I shouldn't hate this person. I know. Who the fuck told you that?
Exactly.
I would love to hear who told you that.
Yep.
And where you picked up that little bit of knowledge, because who the hell told you on your journey where you were expressing yourself to anybody but you were expressing yourself to yourself, allowing everything space to be felt or heard, well, except for those 7 things in that closet. So we're getting into our shadows, we're opening up our closets, but not that one.
Yep.
That doesn't make any sense. So when people are like, well, I've done my healing journey. No, you did a month's worth of picking through the closets that you enjoyed picking through.
Yep.
Right? Because you become comfortable with it, because you deafened yourself to what you know. And this happens when people replay their stories so many times that they start identifying with it, right? Like, and it's usually the story that they're the victim in, that they've been done wrong in. And these can be awful events, and these could just be little petty arguments. Doesn't really matter. Fill the blank. And this is not detracting from any people who are victims in situations or anything like that. That's your story, and you do what you need to do with it. But it's the people who are constantly replaying it of being like, and they're usually really traumatic, and people don't realize that they've rationalized it as a defense.
Yeah.
And I find this all the time, right? Like, I'll just use some off the wall thing. Like, right? Like, I got carjacked at gunpoint, right? Like, let's just, we're all adults. I got carjacked at gunpoint. Not really. This has not really happened to me. So I realized when I said that might seem like it's mine. It's not mine. Don't worry. Like, I got carjacked at gunpoint. And it's like, yeah, like, okay, great. So, like, it's like, okay, great. Like, whatever. Like, that's your story. You go, girl. Like, but it's like, I got carjacked at gunpoint. So it's like, okay. But if you tell that story, you become deaf to what that actually means to your body. And a lot of times people will be like, well, I'm okay about talking about it. Yeah, it was a Tuesday, 9:00, pulled up. We stopped at a red light. 2 cars boxed me in. Some guy tapped on my window, held a gun, told me to open up the door. And they can tell you the whole play-by-play. That's fantastic. 0 emotion involved because you're thinking from your brain to get through it. It's a defense mechanism. So even though you know your story, I hope you do, you lived it.
Correct.
It doesn't mean you've allowed the space for your vessel to feel it. And a lot of times, especially when we're younger in age, sometimes we won't even have those memories. So your siblings might have that memory. Remember that one time that, dad got super mad and he threw all that stuff and he like burnt half of mom's library because he couldn't stand if she was paying attention to the books more than her. Like, again, never happened to me, so don't worry. But like, and you're like, what? No, I don't remember any of that. And they're like, yeah, you were like 7. You don't remember he threw us out of the room. You don't really, and you're like, no, I don't remember. You've blocked it out completely because your vulnerability couldn't handle it. Your mind couldn't handle it. At the age you were in, at the rate that you could process it, it was unprocessable, and it was traumaing. It was damaging. It was harmful. Like, But a lot of times as we're adults, we almost do the opposite sometimes.
Yep.
We over rationalize. We over make it okay. It's okay. It's okay because I survived.
I survived.
It's fine. It didn't matter. Oh, it didn't bother me that much. It didn't bother you that much? You have zero emotion telling a story. It bothers you. And I hate to tell people that, but it's the truth because that's the key to your healing journey. Because somebody can tell their story, but then when you get them alone or you get them on a one-on-one and you have them tell the same story, but now not in front of a crowd. And instead of deaf earing the person telling the story, you look at them and you go, wow, that was really crazy. Like that must have been really tough. And you get on their level and you allow them space because that's what happens. Space is created. You allow them space to start feeling what they're saying, the energy behind the words that are being thrown out of their face. A lot of times you get a illicit response. They're like, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm crying because this really isn't a big deal. No, but it is. But you just never given yourself a safe enough space to feel it unjudged. And a lot of times people walk around and they know their stories and they think they've healed them. Healing isn't about your mind. Healing is the energy in the vessel. It is the meridians. It is the chakras. It is the light body. It is the aura. It is all those things, the prana, the chi, the life force. It is everything else that flows apart from the mind. So when people talk about healing, you healed the mind. Congratulations. But it's the next level of healing the mind is by healing the body and realizing that you haven't healed the mind. You just downplayed your shit. And healing is no longer downplaying your shit. No, that was a big deal. That was crazy. I don't know how we survived. And one of the biggest ways that you'll see this with a lot of people is laughter. We laugh because it's funny. Because if it's not funny, we're crying.
Correct.
And people don't want to admit that. It's okay to cope with laughter. It is okay. But you still have to give yourself a second to feel it without laughter. And a lot of times the people who have spent their whole life laughing their life away, and it's not all bad things. Like I love super joyous people, but they laugh through their hurt, their anger, their trauma, their drama. They're also the number one people who come to us and goes, no one takes me seriously because you have yet to take yourself seriously.
Right.
And it's sad and it's hard and it's hurtful, but it's the truth.
Yep.
And people are like, well, I did say something. You did? Oh, I did mention that. How did you mention it? Well, you kind of just played it off.
Yeah.
You kind of just not made it a big deal. But that's why though.
Yep.
But that's why people don't take you seriously. It's because you have yet to give space for you to take you seriously. And there's a lot of this that happens in healing and people don't realize that it's layered like that onion. It's not linear. You know what I mean? I will continue to keep saying it. Just because you know big words. I was traumatized. I was terrorized. I did my inner child healing. I had my dark night of the soul. I went through my hermit mode. I had multiple towers. Those are great keywords.
Mm-hmm.
But you are more than those keywords. And your story is not defined by how many big words you can put to it. But it's by the emotion and the energy behind feeling through what you live through. Because I can give you a script and have two different people tell you the same story. And how they tell it will tell you where they're at on their healing journey. And it'll tell you where they're at in communication with their emotional body. Because in their light body. Because a lot of times our mind, especially when you're dealing with trauma, has been made our safe space. It's been made our home, our sanctuary. And that's the space that we're safe in expressing things. So a lot of it comes in as thoughts. When we cloud the mind and we make it noisy, we can no longer hear the soul, but we can no longer hear the intuition properly. We can no longer hear the rest of the body. We block it out and we make the mind overly important. It's great that you understand that, the things that you experience from your childhood are probably some of the things you seek out in partners. That's fantastic.
Yep.
But what does that actually mean to you? What to your specific journey does that actually look like? That's what you're healing. You're not healing the concept of it. You're healing what it actually fucking looks like to your energy. You in the vessel, what that actually means. It's not to label yourself with mommy or daddy issues or the middle child syndrome no. or the youngest child who got everything, or the oldest child who was the toughest. No, it's none of that shit. It's what the fuck does that actually mean to your eyes, to your energy, to your vessel, to your perspective, and making it so that way it no longer harbors control by igniting an unsolicited response from you. You are putting yourself back in the driver's seat by taking yourself out of the driver's seat in the beginning. And it's so backwards, and it's so raw, and it's so random. But that's because that's how life is. Your healing mimics your life. Your life was raw. Your life was random. Your life was unprompted. Your healing will be just the same thing. So I hope that this helps anybody who may be thinking that they're not quite sure what their healing journey may be looking like or where to start. The best place to start is to stop lying to yourself. Stop downplaying your shit.
Yes.
Stop making yourself smaller. You will hear us say it all the time. Making yourself smaller is downplaying yourself. That's not a big deal. It's pretending like things don't matter that do matter to you. Over-intellectualizing your experience is doing a disservice to you and everybody who you come into contact with, who you are robbing of the enjoyment of your energy. Healing is messy. The product of healing is peaceful. So feel your anger, feel your sadness, feel your lust, feel your love, feel your grief, feel your vulnerability, feel your turmoil, feel all of those things, because those are just pieces. Those are breadcrumbs of who you are. And healing is so that you can better use all of you. You heal so you can better use all of you to make decisions, to experience life, to help others, to do whatever you wish with your existence. But make it yours, because it is you. It's not separate from.
Alrighty. Thank you guys so much for listening in, tuning in. Thank you for joining us on the Spiritual Roundtable, where we just really get right down in it, no BS, and we just give you exactly what you need to hear. Not always what you want to hear, but definitely what you need to hear. Thank you for joining myself and Miss Keys of Wisdoms 369 for our talk today. And we hope you join us next week, where we have more straight talk coming right your way. And if you are not a member of the website, but you enjoy conversation like this and free knowledge and learning, we have a free tree of knowledge and you should check it out. Become a member. It's 100% free, and you'll find it on www.childofbalance.com. Remember, as you go through this journey, please remember you are to feel your way through everything. Do not stop. Do not make yourself smaller. And always continue to be unapologetically and authentically you, because the world needs more of that.